Hello viewers! In this video we are going to have a look at another Launchpad application. Many of you will certainly know Heimdall, which is very famous and most probably many of you have already seen it. I have made a German video about it here. However, I think Heimdall is a little bit on the simple side, which is okay. But if you want to spend a little bit more effort, then you can get much greater results and much more flexibility. And one of the apps which gives you exactly that is called Homepage. Difficult to find, but I'm going to leave you the link, of course, in the video description. And let's have a look at the GitHub homepage. Here we have it. Of course, you can make it as fancy as you like. It has plenty of interesting features, and I'm going to show you exactly these. And of course, we're going to install it in Portainer on our Synology. Before I start, I would like to speak about memberships. And if you would like to support this channel, a membership is exactly what you could do. I'm offering memberships on Patreon, and there are 3 levels. All my Patreon members can see or watch my videos completely free of ads, which is cool. And also I am answering all your questions and comments on Patreon with priority. There are 2 more membership levels, Plus and Plus Plus, and they give you 10, respectively 25% rebate on my consulting rates. And if you would like to book a consulting session with me, there's the link down in the video description as well. Of course, there is the completely free of charge YouTube subscription. And if you haven't done so yet, please take your time, click on subscribe, and don't forget to ring the bell there, because then you will be notified if I release a new video. For now, let's have a look at the Homepage app. And if you like this video on the way, it would be awesome if you could leave me a like, because that helps not only this video, but also this channel to position itself in the YouTube algorithm a little bit more favorably. But now let's have a look at the video. Enjoy. Yeah, as you can see here on the homepage GitHub page, sounds funny, we have a lot of information about what it can do and what it provides. There's of course Docker integration, there are widgets, there are information widgets, customization, and so on and so on and so on. And there's also a longer section how to install it on Docker. However, I have done the work for you as always, and I'm providing you with a Docker Compose script, which you can load directly into Portainer, and you can download it from the link in the video description. So let's hop over to my text editor of choice. If you download and expand this script, please, if you want to edit it, and you have to, of course, please use a normal text editor, not a word processor, because word processors want to beautify text and certain things get mingled and they don't want to work anymore afterwards. So use a normal text editor. I personally like VS Codium, and of course the link is in the video description. Yeah, I've opened it now in VS Codium, and let's have a browse through what we can find. You can leave everything as it is in principle. However, there are 2 places where you have to adjust. The first one is the environment. We have 2 variables, POID and PGID, which basically maps the permissions to access file system or the file system from Docker to the user who basically created the directories or the folders, and you will see later on why. How can you find out what this POID and PGID is? That's very simple. You hop over to your DSM, you start your control panel, then you hop over to Task Scheduler, and then you click on Create, Schedule Task, User-Defined Script. Up to now, no funny things. Now give the task a name, like get ID, for example. and set the enable flag to not enabled, because we only want to run this once and only if we want it, basically on our pressing the run button, not in the schedule itself. So you can leave the schedule as it is and or rather actually click on run on the following date and set this to a date in the past, so you can be absolutely sure that this only runs when you want it. So task settings is the next target, and you position your cursor inside this little field like I did now, and there is only one command which you want to run, which is called ID. Nothing else. If we quickly hop back to general, please leave the user as the one you are logged on with and the user who you will be using to create the folders later on. Okay, that's very important, otherwise this is not the right user ID which you're getting. Okay, once this all is done, you can click on OK and the thing is saved. Now set your cursor on your get ID task and click on run. Of course, you will be asked, do you really want to do this? Yeah, that's why we are here, of course. Okay, now we have a result. Do you see the result? And of course, we want to do that because that's what we need. Position your cursor on back again on the line of your task. Click on action and view result. And here you get a lot of information, but the only two things we are interested in is the UID, and you recognize this was just the same, just with a P in front of it. It's 1026, and the GID, the group ID, is 100. So basically we can close this all and hop back into our editor, and if you have a different ID, please adjust it here, and the same for the group ID. Next we have the ports. This is the normal port mapping if you do not use Mac VLANs, and this is something I will explain in a second. You will have to have a port mapping, and as usual in these scripts, the left hand side is something you can change and the right hand side stays as it is. Now, I was mentioning Mac VLAN earlier. We are, of course, and all my videos or most of my implementations and videos about containers and Docker will be using Mac VLANs. That's a very important thing. If you currently don't know what Mac VLANs are and how to configure it and so on, I will not do this in this video. Here is a reference video which I made exactly for this purpose. Have a look at it, do what I'm explaining there, and then afterwards come back. Honestly, it's almost half an hour long, but it's absolutely worth your while, because afterwards you are going to be almost an expert with everything which regards Mac VLANs. So everybody else who already knows what Mac VLANs are and what I'm usually doing with it, you can skip that, of course. Just if you don't, do what I just said. That explains a lot. So now, since we are using Mac VLANs, we can actually leave out this ports thing completely if we want, because since Mac VLANs give your container the complete port spectrum which is available, we don't need any mapping, and we can just directly talk to our container with a port which is mentioned here on the right hand side of the colon. Next thing you have to change is the volume mapping. I have already adjusted it to what I have. You will of course have a different folder structure. So let's hop over to onto DSM, and I'll show you how I usually do that. You open the file station, you go to the shared folder Docker, which was created when you installed the Container Manager on your Synology, and you click on create folder, and now call it something you will recognize, and in this case I call it homepage. That's basically it. Now let's have a look back in our script. Do we need anything else underneath? Yes, we need another folder called config. So now we hop into the newly created homepage folder, click on create another folder, which we are going to call config. Now, you will be wondering, how do I get this proper or this command line name of this folder now into my script? That's very easy. You just right click on this newly created config folder, go down to properties, and here next to location you have the full folder path. You can mark this with just like with the mouse like I did. Then you press Command or Control C. Now it's in the clipboard. Now we can hop back to our script. Now you mark everything up to the colon. And now you press Command V or Control V to basically replace what we just marked with what we got from DSM. Now everything here is fine. The next line of volume mapping you have to leave exactly as it is. This is the mapping of basically the control file which Docker or Container Manager uses to interact with all its containers. Okay, now we get to the restart clause. I usually leave that on unless stopped. If you want this to always run regardless what happened, you can replace unless stopped with the word always. Next is the section networks, and again MacVLAN is the reason why we have that. Here you have to pick an IP address, available IP address from your MacVLAN. Make sure it's available and not already used by anything else, because otherwise you end up with duplicate IP addresses, and this is a complete no-go. Once you've done that, you basically done everything you have to do to adjust this script to your environment. Now you can press Command A or Control A to mark everything, like I just did. Now you press Command C or Control C to put everything into the clipboard. Now we hop back over to Portainer. And if you've logged on to Portainer like I just did, it looks something like this. You click on Live Connect. Now you're connected to your container host. And we want to create a new stack. Click on Stacks, Add Stack. It's helpful if you, again, name it something you will recognize. In this case, I'm super creative and call it Homepage. And now position your cursor in the web editor area, and since we've got our script in the clipboard, we can press Command V or Control V to paste everything here into here. There's nothing else to do since we've already adjusted everything. You can just quickly glance over it and check if you did everything according to your environment. And if everything is cool and done, you can click on Deploy the stack. If you do that for the first time, it will take a while because you're downloading the whole shebang from the internet. I've done this, of course, just to test it out for you, and this is why it went so fast. Now I have the homepage stack in my stacks list. I can click on it, and you should see something like here, like this containers entry, homepage on healthy. Now let's have a look at the logs, and I always do that because should something have gone wrong, I'll always see it in the logs, and here I can just have a look for anything which looks like an error or a little problem or whatever, but it seems that everything's fine and the whole thing is listing on port 3000. So basically we can now hop over to this IP address, port 3000, and we should see on our homepage container, or the output of our homepage container. Yeah, let's do exactly that. I'm opening a new tab in my browser, and I'm going ahead, calling now the IP address with port 3000, 192.168.0.48:3000. And we should now see our homepage. This is now in the dark mode. If you don't like dark mode, down here you can switch it to light mode. It's just up to your taste. And here you see the representation of the initial configuration. And yeah, actually it is very simplistic, which I personally like. And I'm going to show you now how to customize this and get your own apps or containers into this Launchpad. To do that, we have to edit a configuration file. Very easy. Let's hop over to our DSM. We can close this away. And I'm clicking on refresh. We are already in the folder of homepage, and here we have our subfolder config. And as you can see, the installation procedure on Portainer, basically the deployment, has already created these files for us. And now we can start looking through these things. And basically everything happens in the services.yaml file. And in this video, I'm explaining how to install everything which you need to edit these things, namely the text editor. And if that's installed, you can just double click on the services.yaml file and it opens in the text editor, and you can basically give it your own structure. As you can see here, these three main areas or main points basically represent what we can see here on the homepage app screen. And let's start with just adjusting this quickly, like system information. You will see what's behind this later on. Then we call the second group production apps, and the third one will be called tools. Okay, let's save this and hop over to homepage. And as you can see, it has already reflected what we did in our services file. Let's go on with this, because this is now really interesting. Let's hook a new app into this production part. And this will be, let's say, a container which I have in my installation on my Synology. And I'm going to call this Directors, because this is a super cool app. Then, because it is a YAML, we have to follow their convention, Directors : and now we tap into it, and now we say icon. And there are lots of icons available, and the documentation of homepage actually tells us how to find it. So let's hop over here to their explanation. And here in services, we have the whole explanation of the syntax and what you have to do to get your groups and items organized. There is one more point which I want to get to quickly, because I was talking about icons. You find it here, and everything which is in this dashboard icons GitHub you can use. So just if you want to go and find something particular, go to the PNG or SVG folder, depends what you like. And in my case, I want to see if there's something which is called Directors. And of course it's here. So I can use either directors.png or directors.svg, depends on my taste in my configuration. So let's do that quickly. Oops, and let's go back to my Synology. It's going to be called directors.png. Next we have to tell it where can we find it, the URL. href comes from HTML, and this is going to be http:// and now I can just quickly look it up on my Portainer. I sort by IP address, and my Directors app is on 47. I'll just type this in here. 192.168.0.47. Now we have to actually also add the port number that was in the stack. (8055) 8055. Now I can give it a description. Directors low code. Let's save this and hop over to our I made a mistake, obviously, but this is not bad. It's actually a very good point that that we see this here. It doesn't like tabs. So if you want to follow the structure, you have to put in spaces, not tabs. For whatever reason, it is like that. So just accept it and live with it, and nothing bad has happened. So let's go over, and here we have our first app. If I click on this, I'm being basically forwarded to my director's login page. So let's go on with exactly that. I'm going to fill this quickly with a few things, and then we're going to look at another feature which is just plainly awesome. Now let's have a look at a few more really interesting things. For example, I have my Unify controller on my Synology as a container. So let's go here, do that. Icon is unify.png. So it also gets a description. Now we can make this to an information widget. Not really very well described, but just follow along. Type, and it has different types. And if we have a look at the documentation, it gives us a list of available widgets, and they are basically structured to what the developer mostly does. Apparently he's a fan of media, so that comes first, but then we also have download clients and, which is very important for us in this case, network utilities. Let's click on Unify controller and it tells us what we have to do. So basically type is Unify. If I just didn't always press Command Tab. Type is Unify. Then we need something which is called URL, not href, it's now URL. And that's basically exactly the same what we have here. And now we need a username. And that should be a local user on your Unify network app. The networked or cloud users, they sometimes or most of the time are configured to use two-factor authentication, and this is something we can't do here. So we need a local user, at least with monitoring rights. Okay, I have created one, which is called monitor. Now we need, of course, a password. Don't worry, I will have changed this password later on. Once you watch this video, this is all gone. Now we need the last parameter, and that is, of course, the site name. This is called site, and this is in my case Menzane. All right, we can save this and hop over to homepage, and as you can see here, we have not only a widget or a jump mark to open the Unify network app, but we also get quite a few bits of information what's going on Unify. let's hop over there, and you know the whole drill. Now let's go the next step. Let's just quickly put in another section here. Let's call this pie hole. Also here we can add a widget. Now we call this type. And of course we're taking this reference here. We find it here, pie hole, type pie hole, the URL and the key. I'll show you how to get that. Type pie hole. Now the URL. Now we don't need this admin thing anymore. And now the key. How do you get the key from Pi-hole? You log on to your Pi-hole. You hop over to Settings. Now you have here a point which is called API. And you can now click on Show API Token. And this is where you get your API token from. Now you paste your API token into this part here, save the whole thing, and of course over here you will see that it didn't work because I put HTTPS in here. So, okay. Now everything works. Once you do it right, everything's fine. As you can see, this system here gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of designing your different services, service entries, but also in terms of monitoring a little bit and getting information on a single glance about your whole environment. Because you're not only tied to Unify or Pi-hole, you can also have a look at the other available network utilities widgets, like for example Uptime Kuma, which we haven't done at all yet. There are many more which you can hook into there, for example OpenSense, pfSense, Portainer itself, for example. And once you have the hang of it, it's not very difficult to hook in widget after widget after widget and structuring it the way I showed you. This brings me to the end of this video about homepage. I hope this was useful for you, or at least fun to watch. In both cases, it would be awesome if you would give me a like, because as I said earlier, this doesn't only help this video, but also the entire channel to get positioned properly in the YouTube algorithm. Also, as mentioned earlier, I'm offering memberships for everybody who wants to support this channel. And there are 3 membership levels on Patreon. All my Patreon members can watch my videos since June 2023, completely free of ads. And I'm answering all your questions and comments on Patreon with priority. There are 2 more membership levels, Plus and Plus Plus, and these members get 10, respectively 25% rebate on my consulting rates. And if you would like to book a session with me, there's the booking link down in the video description. Of course, there is the completely free of charge YouTube subscription. And if you haven't done so yet, please take your time, click on subscribe, and also ring the bell, because then you will also be notified if I release a new video. For today, thank you very much for watching and see you soon. Bye bye.